Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Crane, and I am the Programming and Community Engagement Manager here at the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. The Center for Creative Entrepreneurship is educational program where we are building resources for the creative economy. So we put together webinars, in-person events coming soon, which we're very excited about, and we're working on developing different resources for creatives, and especially focused on business resources. A couple of things coming up that we're excited about. We're going to be starting a new series called Club Creative, which will feature different creative sectors, and we'll have a kind of a pitch style event. We'll have an educational piece, and it'll be a networking event. It's a monthly series, so definitely be on the lookout for that. This Saturday, we're really excited that we partnered up with Northwestern and TunePad in an event called Street Code Jam Fest. It's going to be a really cool event that teaches kids how to code through using music. It's a new technology developed by Isaiah Wallace and Michael from Northwestern, and we're presenting a little bit of an event this Saturday. But today, we're really excited to bring in our guest. Pinqy Ring is an incredible MC, speaker, educator, U.S. hip-hop ambassador. I mean, she's really done a lot of things so far in her career. So we will bring her in. Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
going well. How are you?
Oh my gosh, it's been a while.
It
Um,
has. A whole panini has happened in between us.
yeah, definitely. Um, you know, I thought about you. I started this new gig with the Center for Creative Entrepreneurship. I've worked with Pinqy Ring before. I was the program manager at Navy Pier, and we worked together at Latinx, where she performed and was an MC. And so now I'm in this space where people are talking about entrepreneurship, right? And so when I was playing music, I wasn't thinking that I was an entrepreneur, or as an artist, we don't think of ourselves as business people. It's like we do our art, and that's kind of that's why we do it, But then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second, like I want to get paid for this stuff, and I want to make this into a career, So how does that, how do we do that? And you've been somebody that I feel like has, really diversified your whole portfolio. I mean, first of all, you're an incredible MC, right? So the talent is like top notch, but then it's like, well, I also do education. I'm also a speaker. Didn't you go to Dubai as an ambassador?
I
So
did. I actually did. Yeah, Cambodia, Morocco, and I'll be doing Sri Lanka and Nepal next year.
that's so incredible. Can you talk a little bit about just that journey of like, how you developed Pinqy Ring and the just the whole kind of package of starting as an MC. I don't even know. Maybe you didn't start as an MC, but just how you kind of built into your current kind of career.
Absolutely. So I always was a very prolific writer.
Okay.
I remember writing stories and books when I was younger, and my teachers always like applauding me and being like, this is incredible. So the writer piece was always there. And then it shifted into the MC piece when I was in high school. And at this time, like, I'm the girl that was hanging out with all the boys. So they were all rapping, and I'm like, my mission on this earth, I think that God has put me here to show men that we can do what they do and sometimes even better than they do it. So I was
Right.
like, oh, okay. I put words together. Like, naturally, I could do this. But really, it was me like diving into the world of hip hop and like falling in love with it. And then realizing one day, I could do that too. I can add a voice, I can add a story to this, like a very important story that's often not heard in hip hop, which is that of the woman. And then when we think of like Puerto Ricans and their heavy, heavy influence in hip hop, it's almost not seen anymore in the mainstream industry. So I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's a lane, it's wide open. Let me go down there. All of the other sort of accolades and jobs and like positions in the world have all been birthed from hip hop, which is the
Mm.
most beautiful thing to me. When I'm speaking about myself as a rapper, as you know, an MC, as a student of hip hop. When I'm doing cultural ambassadorship, it's because of my role as an MC. I teach hip hop and music entrepreneurship. And all of that is because of hip hop. So it really was when I finally buckled down and said, this is something I want to do, and this is something that I want to do forever. All of these other jobs just started sprouting from it. So I say that to say, like, find something you love, like the quote says, and you'll never work a day in your life, but you'll always be busy and you'll always be happy.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Um, so can you talk a little bit about the music entrepreneurship that you know, because I think it's so important to educate our youth and educate, you know, younger people who are coming behind us in terms of like, you know, your talent and your music may be super on point, but you know, your business maybe not, you know, and you're definitely someone which I always appreciate is very like clear and vocal about the business side of it. You know, when programming, like this is this, you know, a lot of people, you know, will say yes to a lot of things with not knowing what they're saying yes to, and don't ever think about the fact that they can negotiate, right? You can say this sounds great, but I need this and this. You know, this is, you know, you don't have to say no, but you can always try to negotiate. So can you talk a little bit about the music entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. And I always say that reminds me, if it's not like an emphatic yes, then it's going to be a no. Like, and be okay with saying no to more things. Like, this year and this panini has been the year of no for me, because sometimes I just haven't had the bandwidth to
Right.
do X, Y, and Z. So I think that, you know, being okay and trusting your intuition, and that if something doesn't feel like an emphatic yes, like a hell yes, then it's a no, and that's okay, because other opportunities will arise. It's so important to be on top of your business and to be a business person when you're doing this music thing. Sometimes that can be daunting, and sometimes that can be really frustrating. Like, one of my frustrations right now is around social media, period. I
Mm-hmm.
took a social media hiatus because it was just draining me, like feeling like I'm this excellent creator, entertainer, and yet I have to sort of do all of these other extra things in order
Mm.
to, like, you know, prove my worth, or to reach a target audience, and it can get really frustrating. So I would say, because we're creators and we come from the heart, sometimes we need to take a break from those things, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't need to be well versed, well educated on your business things. And yes, especially as a woman, like, something I've learned, and this has been very recent, and this has been also shout out to, like, the women's leadership incubators that I've done, the women's boot camp programs that I've done. That, like, sort of forced me to learn the business side, because if not, I was just gonna, just my well was gonna dry out.
Right.
So it's really important to advocate for yourself, especially in this day and age where, you know, I think that on the flip side, like, promoters or even people who work, you know, for creative agencies full time, forget that they might be a salaried employee, or they might have a guaranteed check week to week. We don't, right? My week depends on how many gigs I have, how many classes I'm teaching. And then
Mm.
with the pandemic happening, you know, that shut a lot of that down. So we have to really just understand, like, what's our bottom line? What do I need in order to be completely successful at doing this thing in the best way possible? And then from there saying, okay, this is what I need. Negotiating those needs. And again, if it's not an emphatic yes, then it's a no. But learning publishing, learning about your social media marketing, learning about your target audience, all of those things are so important. Having an EPK, having your resume ready, having um, your set plan, and, you know, who's performing with me. Do I have a DJ? Do I have a drummer? What do I need in order to make this successful? Those are things that I learned over time also. So please be patient with yourself if you don't have it right away, but also know that there's a vast amount of information right at your fingertips that when I started, it wasn't accessible to me. Like, I was writing down lyrics to songs to memorize them, because I couldn't just hop on the internet and, like, pull up the lyrics to
Right.
whatever song.
Right.
So we also have to understand that we're in this new technological age, that, like, so much is at our fingertips that we can just find the information we need, read books, you know, do whatever you need to do to get your business in order and get your team together.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because
That's a really big one.
I can't do everything by myself.
Right.
I don't want to negotiate all the time because I would do everything for free if you let me. I totally would because I love what I'm doing, but also realizing I got bills, I got two cats to feed, I
Right.
got I have to make sure that I'm on top of my things because if not, you'll crash and burn much sooner than you should. And like we need more artists that are truly living their authentic selves. And that means just paying them what they deserve to be paid. And that means you learning how to negotiate what your rates are and what your baseline is for you.
Yeah, no, I think, that a lot of what you said, are some great points. Definitely living in a social media world, I think artists are definitely pushed to be content creators, which is not really what they are. Like I would never call, your art or my art content. I mean, obviously it is, but that's like, it's like, it's hip hop, it's music, it's life. Um, and that pressure of staying relevant, of the perception of staying relevant, because maybe under other people's, looking relevant, there might not be a lot of substance behind it. So I think it's very interesting of how to balance that as an artist. And also for, like you brought up, like just mental health in general, like, being able to take breaks from those and have some time for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard.
Even though we don't like to do the things, we still have to do the things. Like,
Mhm.
it's also very important to stay with the times. Like the hardest lesson I learned is that relevance in music is so important. And if you fall off for just a second, you got to work even harder to climb back up. And I hate that. And I hope to create an industry and a world where that's not the truth. And that's not right. But this is
Right.
where we're at now. So this is what we have to deal with. These are just the times that we're in. So that's why I always suggest, like, if that's not something you want to do, then find a team that can get that done for you, with your creative direction. But like, assign that off to people. I've been so fortunate to work with Columbia College, and I have interns from there. I work with an organization called Creative Rage that helps me with stuff. I have lots of creative friends that we sit together and just brainstorm and have like our own little incubators where we talk about the things we need to get done. But again, social media for me, it was like, let me just share my natural life. But then it was like, well, you got to share more often and this many times a day, and you need this kind of engagement, you need to live this many times, and you need to do this many songs. And I'm like, okay, that's also really encroaching upon like my creative and artistic freedom, and
Right.
the fact comes when it comes and you can't force it. So again, when you're finding yourself in those moments, find a team. And you don't have to have interns. You can just get together with creatives and have, brainstorm sessions with them, writing sessions with them, assign your social media for someone to handle. Again, if it's something because then you also don't want it to be inauthentic. You don't want to be putting out content just to put it out, because
Right.
then it's resonate with your listeners, not going to resonate with your social media following. So again, that team, man, that's like lesson of life. Like
Yeah.
having people that support what you do is important, because we can't do things, you can get a lot done, but will it get done well? So
Right.
bring up professionals that they love that stuff, right? And then go and create your art and give them the content to be able to put it out.
Yeah. That's it's a great point. It's something that's really important, for people who are building things, is that team is just like, man, it's so important, especially because, like you said, like as an artist, you don't want to deal with like all the booking stuff, all the advanced logistics, like, organizing rehearsals, even maybe your books. Maybe you do want to deal with your books, but all those type of things, where if you have a team around you, it does allow that space to just like, hey man, I just want to be creative. I don't want to be, the businesswoman, the hip hop artist, this, all in one day. Um, and and in our industry, it's important to be authentic, right? Like, if you need to surround yourself with good people, and that's not easy necessarily to figure out at first, especially when you're younger. When you're older, like your bullshit meter starts to like,
It kicks in,
it
yeah.
kicks in. You're like, oh.
Everybody can come, everybody, let's go.
Like someone's talking too much, you're like, oh, I don't know.
Absolutely.
you
Because
know
everybody can go on your journey either. That's
yeah.
another thing that we have to remember is you know, that could be family, that could be friends, that could be someone who's been kicking it with you forever. Like, everybody can't go. Everybody is not allowed on this journey and on this trip. So, you
Right.
know, that discernment will kick in and you'll know who it is. But, you know, you also cannot do it on your own. Take it from me, who, you know, I still don't have a manager, right? I do all of these things and I'm starting to feel it. That's the reason why now I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to honor myself. I need to like strengthen my spirituality because it's driving me crazy. And then I can't create, right? Then I sit down and I'm like, nothing's coming, and, you know, the messages aren't flowing through. So, you know, just get you good people that can lighten that load for you, because you literally cannot do it by yourself. But also, don't let everyone into what you're doing, because there are a lot of people with very ill intentions, and everyone can't go. Don't feel bad about, you know, we sort of, especially in hip hop, like laud loyalty. We're always like loyalty over everything, and it's like, yeah, but loyalty to myself is the most important thing, right? And everybody can't go. And if this doesn't feel right, like, we need to really do better. And this is something I try to impress upon my young people, is like, your intuition is there for a reason. There are, you know, ancestors moving through you. There are people who have learned these lessons. There are, um, you know, so many mechanics that we have already within our own bodies that tell us this isn't right. I don't think I've ever met a person that went against their instinct and was like, that went great.
Right.
It's usually,
Right.
I wish I would have listened, you know? So
Right.
trusting our more as musicians, as business people as well. And as we're selecting this team, like, in knowing, is this person, and asking the right questions of that team, right? What are their values? What do they stand for? You also don't want that person to get you into trouble because they said some silly shit. And then it's like, ooh, that doesn't align with my brand at all. You
Right.
know, don't have a team for the sake of having a team. Have a team that actually uplifts your art and builds you up as a person, so that you can get to the position in this life that you're already destined to be in, because you're creative. Like, we're blessed, like, spiritual beings for having this gift. It could get taken away in a second if you're not doing things the right way.
Yeah. And, you know, so there it is. Small team. You can have a team, but make it a little smaller. You know, and it's important to, you know, the quality of life. You know, it's like, you know, if you have a team that, you know, supports you and helps you, and you surround yourself with that, I think that's great advice. Like, don't take everyone with you. You know, like, you have to, you know, you have to focus on, I mean, it's, you have to focus on your art. You have to a lot of things to do, you know, as an artist. So, well, Pinqui Ring, that, you know, I don't want to take any more time, and I definitely want to talk to you offline about a bunch of things. This conversation kind of perked up. You know, it's great to see you. I think, you know, Chicago, the world is really lucky to have someone like you who can look out for our youth, who can be there for people. You know, you're super talented, but there's also a lot of, you know, love and light from you, and just, you know, being there for others. You know, especially for female DJs or female MCs coming up. You know, they can talk to you. You know that, you know that world, and I think it's important for, you know, for people out there to know that that resource is there, and, you know, you're you know, leading the way, which is not easy either.
Stressed. I'm stressed. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then, you know, again, with the whole global pandemic happening and how that affected artists, period, it's been
Right.
really difficult. But, you know, I do want to continue to be a resource and a mentor for women in all aspects of hip hop, but in music. And even if you don't want to do music, you want to be a woman carpenter, like, let's talk, because our experiences are not always so different. You know, when you're kind of jumping into a male dominated field, you know, it's really about grit and tenacity and staying true. But the most important thing that I think I've had is a team of mentors and people who have been guide me. But the thing that I never had, unfortunately, was a mentor in music, right? A woman mentor in music. I've
Right.
had lots of male mentors, but a woman mentor in music. So, you know, we say you become what you want to see in the world and what you needed. So when 15-year-old Pinky was rapping, you know, that's what I needed, was a woman mentor to swoop in and be like, hey, here's how things are done. Here's how you avoid this. Let me, like, lay the blanket over the mud so you can get over it. And that's what I aim to do. And then aim to, like, build up other women that can do that as well. Because the more that we are looking out for each other and teaching each other things, then the more we're able to advocate for ourselves. And that's really when we step into our truest selves, because, you know, we're getting all the things that we need. And now we can really function as the artists that we were meant to be, because we're doing well in all the other facets of life. So that's really what I want to do. And anybody watching, please reach out to me if you ever need anything. I'm everybody's auntie. I'm everyone's titi. So if you need anything, please feel free to hop in.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, and it's great to see you. And you know, you're changing the narrative, you know, which is what our, you know, what we're supposed to do as we carry on from generation to generation. You know, what's the new narrative now for female MCs and their path to success. So, anyways, I'll definitely reach out offline, but hope you have a wonderful day, and you know, we'll be in touch. And it's great to see you.
Thank you. So good talking to you
All right.
today.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.